Hello everybody, welcome. I'm No02. Continuing my journey now with the legendary weapons here. We have Pestilence. And first impressions are just the general synopsis here. I think this weapon ends up falling a little below tier compared to some of the other legendary weapons. But I find this gun to be incredibly interesting. Look at the timestamps here. I'm going to be talking about its special effect, its special ability, trying to demonstrate exactly what it looks like and how it can be quite insane versus bosses. Then we'll go into what I think this weapon sort of accomplishes and how it can maybe potentially fit into a team composition or how the weapon can be utilized. Then I'll just go through the numbers, the stats, right? The maximum damage, the minimum damage. And then we'll call it good there, you know what I mean? You know, and then I'll show it to you in the light. You know what I mean? So, Pestilence. Atrophy. Successful hits with this weapon apply a stacking 3 damage per second debuff, I would say, and reduces the damage the target deals by 1 damage. So, unlike or different from the Damnation Shotgun, with the Damnation Shotgun says that it does 50 damage per second for 3 seconds, which would be a total of 150. Pestilence, though, there's no timer here. There is no timer on this debuff. So, and that's not a mistake. If you shoot a Ridden with 1 bullet from Pestilence, it will take 3 damage every second forever until that Ridden has run out of health. And for common zombies, not a big deal. Mutations, kind of nice, but a lot of times the issue with mutations is that we have the pressure of time on us because we don't want to get on top of us. And I'll talk about that maybe a little bit more. But for bosses, you can shoot an ogre, in theory, with 1 bullet, and eventually that ogre will, well, atrophy, I guess. So I just want to demonstrate to you exactly what this looks like and how ridiculous it kind of gets when you do a couple of mag dumps with this weapon. I'm hoping that this door is a boss of some kind.
Now you got me angry.
It is not. It is Tallboy Horde. Or Reaper Horde. Oh no, it's an ogre. Okay, good. So there is just about 30 bullets pumped into pumped into this ogre here. So if you don't like how this looks, don't run Pestilence with knowledge is power, because that's what's happening. It is just a constant. Look at the ogre's health. We'll unload another magazine into it. It's got about 60 stacks now of Pestilence, and you can just sort of see its health naturally draining. Excuse me? Excuse me. Now we're at 3 magazines into the ogre, and its health is just a steady stream into oblivion. And you can sort of see 90 bullets, right? 90 bullets, and you can do this all by yourself to an ogre. Put 4th magazine in, and not a problem. The ogre's health is a steady stream into nothingness. Steady stream into nothingness. I'm not going to show you the exact damage values for the main bullet, the minimum and the maximum, quite yet, but I'm going to talk about them and that they are low. This gun just barely, in theory, does more damage per bullet than the typical M4. The standard M4 does 11 points of damage. And just as a point of reference, this gun barely doesn't do that at all, right? So, I do think that this weapon sort of falls a little below the bar as far as, or comparing it to the other legendary weapons. The other legendary weapons have good stumble potential, really high natural DPS, and are just chunky mutations. The Damnation Shotgun can light an entire horde on fire, or light a tall boy on fire, and the tall boy's health melts away. The TTK on all the other guns is really good. So I think in general, standard gameplay, this gun ends up falling off dramatically. When it comes to shooting the common zombies, you need to get headshots if you want to have any chance at all of dropping them with one bullet. Otherwise, you're shooting a zombie and you're literally waiting for the 3 damage to tick off over time. So this is not an ammo... Can we guys stop moving, please? Can we chill out, bots? So otherwise, this is not an ammo-efficient weapon when it comes to shooting zombies. It's really not an ammo-efficient weapon when it comes to shooting mutations in general.
Okay. Thanks.
Because again, this is about damage over time, and when it comes to mag dumping 2 or 3 magazines into a tall boy, I mean, unless somebody's going to get hit in the next couple of seconds, I mean, it's actually not the most ammo efficient to deal with mutations with 2 or 3 mag dumps unless we have some sort of reliable way to get lots and lots of ammo. But, right, so not great against zombies. DPS is low versus mutations, not a great ammo efficient weapon versus mutations, right? Because it's just mag dumping so many bullets to get the super high poison effect into a tall boy. It's very short lived, it's not worth it. But if we go all the way up to a health pool like an ogre or a breaker, being able to comfortably eliminate an ogre with 4 magazines of an M4, right? 4 magazines of an M4, and the ogre's health is a steady decline, the breaker's health is a steady decline. Dodging and weaving around an ogre or a breaker, that's not really an issue. It's usually dealing with the horde that's called with those bosses. And right now in no hope mode in particular, where there's so much, where it's pretty much every single mission has a chance for an ogre, a breaker, or a hag to spawn, and sometimes in unpredictable locations, if you're in the middle of a breaker fight that spawned in the middle of your map because you're on no hope mode, you're really not going to be able to eliminate the breaker before you eliminate the horde. Like, it's just the horde is going to be the bigger issue than the breaker. You can dodge the breaker infinitely so long as you have the space to do so. So usually when it comes to fighting bosses in unfavorable locations, the key is to deal with the horde first. Isolate the boss by himself, and then you can break him down. Interestingly enough, though, the Pestilence might offer us an alternative to that solution. I think the Pestilence player could, in theory, mag dump the breaker or the ogre, particularly the breaker, right? That's the biggest issue. Maybe 2 or 3 magazines, 4 magazines into the breaker, which with an M4, which shoots really fast, will take you, what, 10 seconds, 15 seconds? Less if you have some reload speed in your kit. I have no extra damage, no reload speed with this kit here, right? So, in theory, everyone else can be dealing with the horde. You completely ignore the breaker, but your Pestilence player could potentially unload a couple of magazines into the breaker. Now you have 2 things working in your favor, as far as, so long as we deal with the horde and maneuver in a way that deals with the horde, but still keeping the breaker away, if things keep going wrong, somebody gets hit by a sleeper or a snitch wanders into the fight, sometimes hordes can get sort of extended, or things are just not going well, or you don't want to feel the need necessarily to throw a grenade at the breaker. Pestilence can potentially be an answer to that in some niche circumstances, where the Pestilence player can just unload a couple of magazines into a boss, and then the boss will basically take care of itself. In addition to that, because I was talking about ammo, it's not an ammo-efficient weapon versus zombies, not really ammo-efficient weapon versus mutations, but versus a breaker or an ogre, 4 magazines of an M4, and then it's got a health bar that's going to last for the next 10, 15, 20 seconds maybe. That's incredibly ammo efficient. It goes from not being ammo efficient at all to being insanely ammo efficient. Now, I'm sort of talking this up, right? Sort of, trying to get the idea across. With that all being said, this is one of the worst legendary weapons. I think it's cool in theory. I think there's some potential here for this to be really interesting. Maybe some nuanced circumstances where this gun will really shine, like how I just described before. But beyond that, low weapon damage. It doesn't have almost any stumble chance. It does seem to have a silencer on it, and it shoots, like, you can almost see the bullet come out of the gun. It's like a paintball gun. here is the maximum damage.
Fight or fall, we'll do it.
It is 9.9. Think about that. It is 10 points of damage. Maximum damage for this gun is 10. Now, in theory, right, when we shoot a target with our gun, it does begin to instantly do the 3 damage a second to the target. And we can't quite see it. There's the 3, right? A second later, right? So in theory, if we shoot a target with 1 bullet, it does 10 points of damage plus the 3. Maybe we can sort of stretch it and say that this gun does 13 points of damage per bullet. But otherwise, we're talking about base level M4. Common M4, starter M4 does 12 damage a round. This is the same thing as that. So when it comes to damage, and damage is a big part of your stumble modifier, so this weapon does low base damage, low stumble ability. And here's its minimum damage. Interestingly enough, it still does 10 damage. Isn't that so weird? Why? It has an infinite range on it. There is no damage drop-off to this gun, as far as I can tell. Is there anything over there? There's a fire zombie. Look, still 10 damage. So, in that sense, feel free to pepper whatever you want from whatever distance. It does not make a difference to this gun, which is kind of a neat little quirk to it. But other than that, it's just... So, low damage overall. But I think this might be the Giant Slayer weapon, is what I'm sort of getting at here. Thank you for listening to me ramble about this weapon. I think this gun's fun. I think it's cool. It's kind of funny to see all the numbers floating through the sky. But other than that, I think there's probably better legendary weapons, better damage overall, better stumble chance overall, and they work well in a multitude of situations, not just when you're fighting a boss in particular.
Just putting myself back together here.
But you know, sometimes successfully fighting a boss is one of the more critical parts of a successful campaign run. Let me know what you guys think about this gun, about my idea, what your feelings are on it, because I know this might be a weapon this weapon itself might be a hot take. You know what I mean? Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the future.